Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977. So yes, back once again with another Spielberg review. Haven't done these, in a few months now. I do plan on watching all the Spielbergs, and reviewing them on the channel, slash rewatching, of course. This year, all of them will be done within 2019, basically. E.T. I won't be re-reviewing that, but that was literally towards the end of last year anyway that I reviewed that film, so that kind of counts anyway. And yes, of course, that is my favourite. E.T. If you've seen my review on that, I think that's the finest, and it's in my top 10 of all time. Definitely so. But yes, Spielberg, of course, one of my very, very favourite directors. This is, of course, one of his earliest films, and it's one of the highest grossing films ever made. This film is highly acclaimed by critics, and of course, yes, here we have the Blu-ray, of course. Here it has all three editions on this, and it's, of course, the theatrical, the special edition, the director's cut. I watched the director's cut, and I pretty much always do now. This is the best way for me, to watch the film. This is a spoilers review, of course, as well. If you haven't seen it, I guess most people have seen it, but if you haven't seen it, either skip to the end, kind of see my rate and whatever, or just watch the film and then come back. I highly recommend it, of course. So yes, this is one of the most acclaimed films of all time. It got a couple of Oscars as well. It did come out in the year of Star Wars, so which won 6 Oscars. So yeah, maybe that's why it didn't win more, but certainly one of the most popular films at times. Although lower on IMDb than a lot of Spielberg's. So yes, director's cut once again watched, and Spielberg, as I say, he is actually my second favorite director. He's the only one for me that actually I can really talk about in the same kind of sentence, really, as Kubrick, really. These are the two directors for me that are the best, for me personally. And I think there's some other directors like Chaplin and stuff, or Hitchcock, or Scorsese, that are definitely in my top 10 as well. But Kubrick and Spielberg are the best for me, and he's the only one for me that kind of comes close at times. But yes, this film, what do I think of it? There are criticisms of the film, mainly as well. People say they don't like the way it ends with Roy's the character of Roy, played by Richard Dreyfuss. The way he leaves his family and stuff. There is some criticisms of the film. For me personally, many say that Jaws, a lot of people say it's the best Spielberg. I disagree personally, but they do say, it's far better than Close Encounters of the, his films of the 70s, and Jaws is the best film of his 70s work. I disagree. I actually, I do think Jaws is a masterpiece. There's no surprises there. I'll just reveal that now. For me, this film is better than Jaws. For me, this film is one of the finest ever made. This is one of the pinnacles of cinema for me. It's just. And it's grown over the years, in terms of my connection to the film even more. Always loved the film, but wow, this one has just, my connection to it has just grown and grown over the years. Just every time I've rewatched it, and now I've gotten older, it speaks even more to me. And just the emotions behind this. Despite actually, some people say this is not, one of his most. Kid-friendly films, in that sense. I understand what people are saying, but actually I disagree. I do think that actually, especially in visual terms, this is one of his most, kind of accessible in that sense, and also actually the themes, certainly, in terms of, yes, what it's actually trying to say, are very, very much in the vein of his, kind of family films like E.T. and stuff, and if you actually really, really just allow yourself to give in to the end, especially that ending is not a cold one, and I'll get to that. But yes, this film, of course, it's one of the best films I've ever seen, and it's not even in my top 5 Spielbergs. That says it all, of course, but it's one of the finest films I've made. It's a perfect film for me, certainly in its director's cut form. The special edition, if you want my honest thoughts, avoid it. I don't think seeing the inside of the mothership, I basically think that's a really, really bad choice. I don't understand, how that kind of was ever thought of. Yeah, I think most people agree on that you shouldn't be seeing that one because it's really stupid. It ruins the sense of wonder, and just to reveal that it defeats the whole purpose of the ending anyway. But yes, this film as it stands in its director's cut form, it's a masterpiece, one of the truest films in cinema. Of course, very, very simple plot. Character of Roy Neary, he basically, of course, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and for me, the greatest performance by him, even better than he was in Jaws, and he was the standout character for me personally in that film. Absolutely amazing. He was on fire in that film. This is very, very different, and of course it's much more of an emotional performance, and for me, by far the greatest, and just one of the best performances in cinema, I would say. Definitely up there with the you could say 100 best, something like that. Just absolutely stunning in this film, and our character is basically a cable worker, and stuff, and he gets fired very early on, but of course gradually becomes more and more obsessed, with these UFO sightings and this mountain that he keeps kind of envisioning. Of course he does things in different scenes throughout the film, of course, at the dinner table, and of course he trashes the house and starts building things, based around this mountain that he keeps kind of seeing and thinking about. And yes, of course, eventually him and Gillian, who's another kind of mother in the film who has a son called Barry. Basically, they both see this, and of course, the second half turns into kind of an adventure film. Of course, when they eventually in the final act get to the mountain, and that's where it all takes place. One of the greatest final acts in cinema, and I mean one of the best final acts. It's definitely the best act of the film, and just a miracle of filmmaking. This is stuff of legends. It's just, I can understand if some people say this is the best Spielberg film. I don't agree. I don't think that, but I certainly understand this is monumental, just wonderful stuff. And basically, it shows the family life. You've got this relatable family, and of course, so much charm. Spielberg once again kind of showing childhood, in just such a brilliant way, and something that's so nostalgic, you can relate to, of course. And all the characters in the film, they're all compelling, and of course his wife, Roy's wife, basically played by Teri Garr. She's in the film, and she basically doesn't believe him and stuff, and thinks he's going insane, and eventually, of course, they leave him, and then of course he becomes more and more obsessed, and then of course he goes off on his adventure and pursues, basically, his obsession. And yes, I just think everything about the film is flawless. You've got the perfect and classic Spielberg kind of set up, the patience in the film, the way he builds up the suspense, the sense of wonder in this film is off the charts. It's just like E.T. and stuff, and Jurassic Park. They're films that define what wonder is in cinema. No one really, kind of defines that more for me than Spielberg. In that sense, and just an innocence to the film. And yes, basically, one of the reasons why he's so good, Spielberg, one of the many reasons, is because he's kind of, and he's admitted this, in kind of interviews and stuff. He doesn't. He refuses kind of inside, truly deeply, to grow up. In that sense, he stays kind of a kid in many ways, and he also always kind of shows his dreams, on the screen, and they're translated, for us to kind of experience with him, and just he never, kind of lost this sense of innocence and wonder, and that's why he creates some of the greatest films ever made, that have this sense of wonder, this atmosphere, of course, and this innocence and purity. He doesn't. I don't think he has ever made a film that is pretentious at all. You can say what you think about Spielberg, of course. Not every single film he's made has been, a masterpiece. I'll even say that, but yes, I've never seen a film that is, pretentious by him, and just he always, has us, the viewer, kind of. He always, of course, cares about the viewer first, and just creating these films that truly, truly speak to me, and the sense of wonder throughout, as I say, is off the charts. He does this through his visual storytelling, the music, of course. John Williams, as I say, the pairing between him and John Williams is the best in cinema, hands down for me. After, of course, Ennio Morricone and Sergio Leone and people like that. But yes, this is the greatest pairing, and for me, this is one of the best scores in the history of cinema. Not quite the top 5. John Williams' score is probably, but yes, you know, this is just absolutely wonderful. You know, it's epic, it's beautiful, and yes, you know, the way they incorporate the notes, of course, you know, the kind of tune throughout the film, and yes, just the way, of course, you know, it culminates in the final act. You know, the music, of course, the way it's hinted at throughout the film. You know, you see it's part of the story. You know, it's part of the script, the dialogue throughout the film, and of course the way it's built up, and then it finally comes together in the final act, and it's absolutely wonderful. It really is something else. You know, this is actually written, you know, by Spielberg. You know, not all of his films are, of course. And yes, you know, it's truly something else. You know, it's such a unique concept, and this is, you know, he explores this theme of communication so wonderfully, and you know, just the collaboration here with John Williams, it is something else. You know, I think, and of course, what it says about humanity, and you know, just chasing your dreams. It really is something truly emotional. That's the thing. I don't, you know, I don't think, you know, enough people really, critics and stuff, highlight how emotional this is, and how, you know, innocent and just human it is. You know, it really is. And of course, some critics, you know, like Roger Ebert would you know, focus on this with Spielberg. But yeah, you know, I think it's just really is one of the most human films of all time. What it says about humanity, and just kind of going back to this innocence as well. The character of Roy is, of course, you know, you could say is accepted by the aliens. You know, and they're kind of they're attracted to him because you know, he's kind of he's got this innocence about him, and of course he wants to find out more. He's someone who's curious. He has this sense of this wonder about him, and they take him with him. You know, with them, of course, at the end, as one of the people, of course, because they want him to experience this, and you know, just that whole final act. You know, when everyone's, of course, in awe of this, and the ships. It's one of the most mesmerising moments in cinema. As I say, the final act is one of the best in cinema. You know, no doubt. You know, this is something that is, for me, far and above, beyond the rest of the film, really, in terms of quality. Anyway, it really is something else. What it reaches, you know, in terms of the spiritual levels, is just unbelievable. It really is. And yes, you know, it's got humour in there as well. You know, this is a hilarious film at first as well, especially, you know, these scenes within the family. You know, just hilarious. Richard Dreyfuss, he's such a great actor. You know, and of course he plays a really funny character, of course, in the film, and just the dialogue between him and his kids and stuff, about Pinocchio and all this. It's just really amazing. That's another highlight, of course. That, you know, this character hasn't really grown up. You could say he's more of a kid than, you know, his actual kids in that sense. You know, and just this you know, this magic about him, this energy. You know, it goes throughout the rest of the film. But then again, you know, it becomes very dark. And actually, you know, the director's cut, you know, it kind of highlights that even more. But yes, you know, I think it is kind of a very dark film, and quite disturbing at times. There is great horror sequences, you could say, in the film as well. You know, it's just the atmosphere throughout is stunning. This character study, you know, especially of Roy, you know, is truly something else. And then you've got the wonderful adventure feel that the film has in the second half, culminating to that operatic, you know, masterpiece of a final act. You know, it's one of the most operatic and moving sequences in cinema, and just it really is something else. You know, the way that he uses sound in the film, and this is just, you know, what cinema is. It kind of acts like a silent film, this final act, and just he takes, you know, Spielberg takes, you know, cues from silent films, you know, and just especially, you know, films like E.T. It's all the visual storytelling, of course. Combine that with the wonderful scores, you know, the collaboration between him and Williams, and just the way that, you know, the films are perfectly built up, leading to this, and you just have some of the greatest films ever made, and this is no exception. You know, I just think it's absolutely stunning. The editing is perfect. You know, the cinematography is truly wonderful. You know, it has such a kind of a sweeping feel to this, and just the effects are absolutely stunning. You know, this is just a mastery of visuals throughout the entire film, of course. And I love, of course, the way that you know, Spielberg kind of portrays the aliens in the film. You know, once again, kind of you know, kind of innocent, and he does this, of course, in E.T. as well. I just love this, and it's truly something so moving at the end. it makes me, really cry at the end of this film. It just brings me to tears. It's such an emotional sequence. This is something that, the characters in the film, the way they act, this is how, me as a viewer, I am, kind of acting, and that is a testament to how, well Spielberg has made this film. He certainly achieves what he sets out to do. It leaves me in a state. It's comparable at times, this sort of sequence to 2001: A Space Odyssey, moments of that. It truly is something else. This is what sci-fi should be. It's an example anyway. Just truly something else. But then again, using the themes of humanity and family and a kind of just an innocence to really, really just relate to this. And it's not just kind of these great sets and technical stuff. This is something that is truly, truly human, and it speaks to me. And just the whole kind of I think I'm very hopeful for the ending. I think as well, that of course I think the character of Roy would probably have come back as well. It's not like he was going to go forever, I don't think. But then again, it's something that he really he wants to do, and he feels like he has to do. He has to set out and discover this and just follow his heart. It truly is something else. It's such an emotional film, and spiritually that this film is true, it's pure, and of course the combination of everything in terms of just the way the film is made, it's just perfect. It really is. It's perfectly shot and edited. It never feels at any point like the flow is broken. The direction is flawless, in my opinion, and just the acting from everyone, it's truly something else. Melinda Dillon, as Gillian, of course, is brilliant in the film. And of course the final act, it wraps up all these kind of storylines. There's these subplots, as you will, all these characters, just wonderfully. Francois Truffaut in the film as well. He is great. He really adds a presence to the film. Great character. I always love him in the film. He's just great. Underrated, kind of character there. It's such a wonderful film, and it's just, you can never call this film anything. There's nothing intended that kind of offends, and it's just such a pure film. It's such a kind of a lovely experience that only has our emotions that are focused on. It's nothing that it's preachy or anything like this. It's just a pure film, once again by Spielberg, and wow, once again truly moved me. This is one of the most emotional films for me personally, especially the final act. It's just a wonderful film that has everything you want, at least that I want, really. Themes of family, childhood, and just the way that that Spielberg invites us very, very sincerely to kind of just to look and to feel and wonder. This is what it is, and it's a true masterpiece. Yes, I think it gets into my plus tiers, of course, because it is pretty much around that top 100 mark for me. I think it's one of the best films ever made. I'm going to give it the same rating as Saving Private Ryan of 100% plus. Tier 1. Now that is an extremely high score from me, as you would know if you've seen my channel, of course. I don't really give too many films that, and yes, I'm not going to say what I prefer out of them two films, this and Saving Private Ryan, but wow, this is one of the best Spielbergs in his top 10. As I say, even better than Jaws, and yes, once again, the Blu-ray of this was stunning. This has just got some of the best visuals in the history of cinema. And yes, it may not be, I don't think it is a better film than Star Wars, but it doesn't matter. I think, well, Spielberg has top Star Wars for me with E.T., and we'll get to another one maybe that is as well. But yes, I think this is a true masterpiece, one of the best films of the 70s and of all time. This is well into my top 150, and yes, just a true masterpiece in every sense. This is a flawless film for me, one of the most, greatest sci-fi films ever made, and one of the most the purest films I've ever seen, and the way it combines humanity, with the elements of sci-fi in there. The visuals never, become too much in terms of it never gets indulgent. The final act, some people have said this, I disagree personally and respectfully. I think it's a perfect blend. It's always in harmony. The kind of the spectacle, the overwhelming kind of music with these character moments, and this purity, in the way it portrays humanity, and just it's such a wonderful film. I absolutely adore this film. It means so much to me, and just a life-changing one. It's such an emotional one, and if you've not seen it, wow, you need to check it out. Not that I'll say that everyone will love the film, because clearly, of course, people do criticise the film, and not everyone loves the film. But for me, it is a masterpiece, and yeah, it's one of the best Spielberg's. One of his many masterpieces. He's made more than 10 for me. That's how much. I'm not going to say what all of them are, but yes, you basically, without spoiling too much, you will see more pluses. 100% pluses as you review his films. Quite a few more. There's quite a few in my kind of top 150. More on my top kind of 500 favourite films list. This guy is a genius, and this film is true mastery, and it's one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. A true film, such a pure one, spiritual film, and it's epic, and it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. What a wonderful film, such a lovely creation. Just once again, truly thankful to Spielberg and everyone involved for creating one of the best films ever made. And he's done this time after time. What a streak. Maybe not the film he made after this. We'll get to that, but of course, I think the 80s is the best decade for Spielberg, and then of course, as I said, the 70s and the 90s, just completely knocking it out of the park, of course, with a variety of different films, different genres, but so many masterpieces. This guy is one of the, he's pretty much the best, apart from Stanley Kubrick, and just one of his greatest films. So yes, check it out if you've not seen it, and of course, leave your thoughts in the comments. One of my favourite films of all time, personally. And thanks for watching my review.